Okay. In this chapter, we're going to be talking about midpoint and distance and a coordinate plane. Remember, a coordinate plane is involving x and y values. So if we're looking for the midpoint, and by midpoint, I mean the point directly in the middle between two other coordinates, two other points. And let's say we have some a value, we'll call that x sub 1 and y sub 1. And we have some b value, we'll call that x2, y2. Then the way you find the midpoint is simply the average of the x values and the average of the y values. So we can say that the midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2. That's the x value. And the y value is y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And that will give us coordinates for the midpoint. So average, just really finding the average of the x's and the average of the y's. We can also use that same logic to work backwards. Let's say we have one endpoint of 2, 2, and we know our midpoint is 4, negative 3. The question is, can we find that other endpoint? We can. We set up this equation. 4 comma negative 3 is going to be equal to x1, which in 2, plus x2, which we don't know, over 2, and y1, which is 2, plus y2, which we don't know, over 2. And we can solve for each variable. In this case, we want it to equal 4, so we'd have to add 6, so x2 is 6. In this case, we want it to be equal to negative 3, so we have to end up with a negative number on top, such that when we divide by 2, we get negative 3, so it has to be negative 6 on top. And to get that, we'd have to add negative 8. So y2 equals negative 8. So our other endpoint is 6, negative 8. Okay, same logic, just working it backwards. Distance on a coordinate plane is derived from the use of the Pythagorean theorem. Remember that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and that on a coordinate plane, any 2 points, okay, can be thought of as, the distance between them can be thought of the hypotenuse of a triangle that looks like that. So if we're trying to find this distance here, okay, we can first find this distance here, basically the horizontal distance, we'll call that A, and the vertical distance, we'll call that B. Such that we end up with a formula that says, okay, horizontal distance is found by the difference in the x coordinates. The vertical distance is found by the difference in the y coordinates. Okay, and that whole thing is going to be equal to the distance squared. But I don't want to look for the distance squared. I want to find the distance by itself. So then I just take the square root of both sides. And I end up with d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And that gives me the distance formula. And that can be used to find the distance between any 2 points on a coordinate plane.